Good morning, everybody. Hope we're all doing all okay today. As you can see, I've started off early again. Yeah, got a really busy weekend coming up, so I thought I'd get out today and make a video because I thought it might be my last one for a few days. But yeah, pumping them out at the moment, so it's all good. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Abominable Snowman, or the Yeti. So if you would like to find out more about this extremely fascinating legend, please stick around. Just a quick little correction that I need to do before we get on with today's topic. Yesterday, when I was talking about the Spanish flu, I actually meant the Asian flu. Big boo-boo there on my part, I'm sorry. That's why I need my sister with me on more of these videos, because she's my historical consultant and she would have foreseen that little detail. So yeah, well, I actually meant the Asian flu. The Spanish flu was 1917, I believe, and the Asian flu was in 1957. So yeah, it was my mum who spotted that. So yeah, apologies for any historians who watch these videos. Anyway, I think in the world of cryptozoology, there are three names that are synonymous with the subject and famous worldwide. Number one being the Loch Ness Monster. I think it's fair to say that's the most famous cryptid of all time. Number two, Bigfoot. Obviously, self-explanatory. We love talking about Bigfoot on this channel. Number three is the Abominable Snowman, or the Yeti, which is a very famous name throughout, pop culture around the world. The term was first coined in the late 1920s, I believe, when a reconnaissance mission, found some enormous footprints in the snow around the Himalayas, and one of the explorers wrote back to England saying that the Abominable Snowman is not a myth, and that's where the phrase came from. So like I say, the Himalayas, that is in Nepal, Asia, and Asia has an extremely rich history of, wildman type creatures throughout the continent. And to my knowledge, I could be wrong, earliest sort of mention of this type of phenomena, it's actually in the Christian Bible. It talks about the Nephilim, which they're mentioned in the Old Testament. Might be the book of Genesis. I might be wrong there, I don't know. My mum's probably going to really smack me hand if I get that one wrong. Yeah, it talks about how there was giants in the early days of the earth, and I think they're supposed to be kind of like fallen angels, something like that. And obviously we believe that the Christian Bible took place predominantly in the Middle East. So that's one area to tick off right there. Up in Russia, you have what's called the Almasty. Again, another wild man type creature. Far east than that, China, you have the Yeren. And then going down to sort of Australasia, you have what's called the Orang Pendek, which we're going to talk about very soon on this channel, because I think it's an extremely fascinating cryptid is that. And then of course you have the Abominable Snowman, which is slap bang right in the middle of all that region. I thought I'd wear my Sherpa hat today in tribute to this topic. Yeah, so like I say, Nepal, Mongolia, you know, where the Himalayas are, Mount Everest, the Sherpa people live in that region, and you know, they've lived there for millennia, thousands of years. They know the region very well. They herd yak and other livestock on those mountains. And yeah, anytime there have been scientific expeditions to try and discover the Yeti, or the Abominable Snowman, whatever you want to call it, the first candidate for possible misidentification is the Tibetan blue bear. I think I got that name right. Might be the Himalayan blue bear. And they'll show, you know, Tibetan tribesmen, tribeswomen, tribespeople, I should say. They'll show them pictures of bears, and they will, no, not a Yeti. They're very, very specific about what the Yeti looks like. This is another large, upright, two-legged, walking, hair-covered creature that bears a striking resemblance to us. What's interesting about the Sherpas, you know, the Nepalese people, who, to them, this legend is real. You know, it is a real part of their lives, and they insist. One very interesting attribute about this creature, that its feet are the wrong way around, as in, obviously our toes face forwards. With the Yeti, or the Abominable Snowman, their toes face backwards, and their heels face forward. The idea being is so that their tracks will always face the opposite direction. You know, and us dumb, naive white man will never find them. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Speaking of footprints, the legend of the Yeti really began to captivate Western culture in 1951, when a famous explorer and Everest mountaineer, Eric Shipton, took some photographs of alleged Yeti footprints, and he even had the clever idea to use his pickaxe for scale to give the viewer an idea of how big these footprints were. And you can see yourself from these pictures, they are just that, they're very big. And what's interesting about them, they're broad, you can clearly see toe digits, and the big toe looks like it's splayed from the rest of the foot, just like other species of great ape, and is a common characteristic seen worldwide in alleged Bigfoot trackways. So yeah, quite possibly the most definitive proof ever of the existence of the Yeti. Of course, footprints are just that, footprints. They disappear over time, especially in snow. And footprints, they can be a funny thing, because, you know, by the minute they change their shape because of the elements. Like, I noticed myself yesterday when I was up at my shelter, all of my footprints from the previous day that were in the snow, obviously they had a fresh layer of snow covering them, and you couldn't tell that it was a boot print. It was just very, you know, unambiguous in that it was some kind of footprint. So yeah, the mystery thickens. In Kumjung province in Nepal, there is a sacred monastery that is caretaken by monks, and they worship an alleged scalp of the Yeti. And there's also the skeletal remains of what they claim to be the hand of a Yeti as well. And it never gets taken out of the box. It can be viewed by tourists, scientists, whatever. And you can see yourself again, these pictures. The head, or the alleged head, it's very conical in its shape, which is a classic characteristic that is seen worldwide, you know, in wildman legends. And of course there's some great apes that have that shape of head as well, like gorillas. So yeah, very interesting. I remember many years ago watching a documentary about the Yeti, and this scalp was talked about in the documentary. Now I don't know if this is true or not. Someone might have to clarify for me in the comments who is a little bit more knowledgeable on this subject than I am. But the scalp was somehow stolen by scientists and replaced with a dud. I don't know if that's true or not. Sounds very, you know, James Bond to me, does that. I'm not really sure. But the point that I'm making is that as of today, it's widely accepted, you know, within the scientific community, that this scalp isn't actually a scalp at all. It's some kind of rump off the hide of a hoofed animal, you know, an ungulate. So that's that, I guess. And that the hand, you know, the skeletal hand in this cabinet, it's not a Yeti hand, it's just a human hand. So yeah, like I say, I guess that puts that one to bed. Fast forward to 2014, and there was a DNA hair sample study that was conducted by geneticists on alleged hair samples of the Yeti. And you know, these studies, they're nothing new for, you know, people that have never heard of that before. There's been a few DNA sample studies conducted in America on you know, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Surprise, surprise, the evidence always comes back as either inconclusive, misidentified animal, or, you know, the samples either disappear conveniently or rather inconveniently contaminated. So yeah, but anyway, these hair samples came back from the Yeti. They matched up in the you know, the genome bank, where, you know, all the different DNA genomes of many different animals are stored, and it matched up with a long extinct polar bear Tibetan bear hybrid, which, you know, someone like myself that is, you know, passionate about dinosaurs and prehistory, that in itself I think is fascinating. You know, how we were talking about in the Loch Ness Monster video a couple of weeks ago, how, you know, it's generally accepted now among the scientific community that, you know, the Loch Ness Monster sightings can be explained as some sort of freak giant eel that pops up in the eel population within the loch, you know, once every 2 or 3 generations. You know, so if that's what the Yeti was all along, just some sort of gigantic prehistoric cave bear, I think that is pretty badass personally. Another explanation that I find very interesting is that this is actually some kind of shared collective memory that we have as a race. And when, you know, Homo erectus, which is an extinct hominid, migrated out of Africa 200,000 years ago, they first arrived in Southeast Asia, according to the fossil record, and at that time there was a very real large ape type creature living in this region called Gigantopithecus blacki. And again, you know, we know this is a real creature. If there was anything that ever was a Bigfoot, it's Gigantopithecus, a 10-foot tall, large, hair-covered primate. You know, so, and as I say, there's fossil evidence of this creature. We know that it's real. So there's this some kind of, you know, stored subconscious memory that we have as a race, that these creatures once existed. You know, we might see a bear up in, you know, the Himalayas, not now, but, you know, in eons gone by, and, you know, our fight or flight instinct kicks in, and there's something in our brain that tells us that's a gigantic ape, that's a Gigantopithecus. I think it's a pretty interesting idea, is that? One thing I wanted to say, it's a little bit irrelevant, but it's back to Gigantopithecus. They actually make a mention of the creature in one of the latest Jungle Book remakes, and King Bluey, who is obviously king of the monkeys, he is a Gigantopithecus, and he makes reference to it in the song I Want to Be Like You. And man, I remember the first time I saw that in the cinema. I remember looking at my girlfriend at the time, and I was just like, oh my god, he's a Gigantopithecus! Oh, buzzing. So yeah. So I think I'm going to just summarise here. And look, I'm not going to say the Yeti isn't real, because I believe in fairies at the end of the day. Fairies. And I've seen something that I believe to be the UK wild man. So if the Yeti is real to some people, it's real. It's just that I think if you wanted to scientifically explain this legend, the cave bear theory and the Gigantopithecus theory, you know, I think they're pretty solid theories themselves. So yeah, I'm just going to wrap it up now there, I think, and you know, enjoy my breakfast, get some eggs on the stove. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this video and made it through to the end, as always, thank you. I massively appreciate that. If you've any theories yourself as to what you think the Yeti might be, please leave a comment. I'd love to know. And yeah, like the video if you want, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll hopefully see you all in a few days' time. Bye bye.